Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
You're dealing with an addicted generation.
This is a big time bomb ticking.
This is no accident. Indeed, it is by design.
I mean, seriously?
It was my mistake.
I mean, I think we can all feel it.
To try to make these products as addictive as possible.
Spike in dopamine.
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible. That is the desired use case of these products, is that you use it in an addictive fashion because that maximizes the profit that can be extracted from your attention and data.
It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are.
The thing is, there's this myth that technology is neutral, that it's up to us to choose how we use it. Therefore, these platforms are not responsible. It is not true.
How did we get here?
My job to you is the wake-up call to make you aware of the problem. Your job is to figure out how we're going to stop this before it kills us.
And we all want to be liked, but now we want to be liked by 16 million. And will now some of us do anything to be liked?
You have one of these or something like it, take it out and hold it up. I'm predicting pretty close to 100% saturation. Look at that, I'm right. Probably 90% by now. It's the first thing you do in the morning. When you hold up and you wake up, you check your little robot. It's on your body for almost the entire day.
Not only was I interrupted, I also kept on reaching out for my phone, hoping that perhaps there was a notification. And I wasn't doing this consciously. It was exactly like Pavlov's dog, but my bell was my ringtone, and my sugar was that one notification a day you might get that makes you happy. As it turns out, we got so addicted to technology that 9 out of 10 people today experience something called phantom vibrations. This is when you have your phone in your pocket and you thought it vibrated, you pull it out, there is nothing.
Now, if you went back 20 years in time to a coffee shop and you said that was the way a coffee shop was going to look in the future, you'd be out of your mind. People looking at these little pieces of silicon in various sizes, not really communicating with each other, communicating with their little robot buddies. You do know that one of these operating systems for these robot phones in our pocket is actually called Android. Right on the nose, they just define it. It's an Android, it lives with you.
Today.
People look like they have a much better life than they really do. People are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking.
Turn it off. That's what I would say. It's hard for young people now because they're hooked. They're addicted. If you don't think you're addicted, and I'm talking about anyone, from the highest to the lowest, if you don't think you're addicted, then see if you can turn it off for a week.
We are wondering what is happening to the world. Everything is changing.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high-tech we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
Police are downplaying privacy fears that they can track anyone using Amazon's new facial recognition technology.
So the department, what they're doing is they're testing out this computer program.
Identify anyone, anywhere, in real time. Sky News just used Amazon's facial recognition technology to ID guests at the royal wedding.
A company that supplies body cameras to police forces across the country may now add facial recognition to them. But that move is sparking ethical concerns.
60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation.
The smartphone uses facial recognition technology to unlock it. But one day after Apple unveiled the iPhone 10, just one day later, a Democratic senator asked the company, what do you plan to do with all that data?
It is the biggest leap forward since the original iPhone.
In California this week, Apple pulled back the curtain on its latest gizmo, packed full of new tech and now new questions.
We call this Face ID.
A forward-facing camera system will use depth sensors to map the contours of your face, unlocking your phone.
Your iPhone now recognizes you.
Facial recognition isn't a new concept, but with an estimated 700 million iPhones reportedly in use around the globe, there are new privacy concerns about this technology.
There's always a chance that someone could physically force you to unlock your device by grabbing your hand or holding the phone up to your face. You also have to worry about where this information is being shared.
Now Congress is asking where that information could go. In a letter to CEO Tim Cook, Senator Al Franken outlined a number of concerns, including Apple selling the data to third parties or giving it up to law enforcement.
Police officials may be outfitting officers nationwide with body cameras that have facial recognition. Privacy concerns are growing after the country's largest police body camera manufacturer, Axon, is entertaining the idea of incorporating AI technology into their body cameras. Axon, formerly known as Taser, is the maker of electroshock weapons and body cameras that are used by most major American police departments. The company is expressing interest in adding facial recognition to its body cameras, which would allow officers to scan and recognize faces of potentially everyone they see while on patrol.
The Director of Technology and Civil Liberties for the ACLU of California warns, once a dangerous surveillance system like this is turned against the public, the harm can't be undone. We're blowing the whistle before it's too late.
People called for body cameras and all this new technology because they thought it would lead to increased police accountability. But what we're finding is that accountability is not taking place. What's happening instead is an increase in police surveillance capabilities. So instead of getting accountability, we're getting increased surveillance.
Revelations of government surveillance on private citizens in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks have shocked and worried Americans across the country.
The increase in domestic government surveillance after 9/11 was possible because of the systems and practices set in place long before the attacks. Domestic surveillance tactics were first designed to facilitate foreign interventions and then brought home. We call this the boomerang effect. Interventions that were first aimed abroad return home and are used to monitor citizens. Preparing for and engaging in foreign interventions provides a testing ground for intervening governments to experiment with new forms of social control. These methods of control often return home. The result is that the intervening government becomes more effective at not only controlling foreign populations, but domestic populations as well. The groundwork for the modern surveillance state can be traced back to one man, Captain Ralph Van Diemen. His story illustrates the boomerang effect.
In 1901, Captain Ralph Van Diemen took command of the Division of Military Information in the Philippines. Using state-of-the-art technology and organizational techniques, the division collected data on Filipino citizens in order to suppress dissent to the U.S. occupation following the Spanish-American War. After returning to the United States, Van Diemen began meeting with military leaders to convince them to create a dedicated domestic intelligence agency. He was ultimately successful, and in 1917, the Military Intelligence Section was formed, with Van Diemen at the helm. Under Van Diemen's leadership, it was renamed the Military Intelligence Division and restructured into 12 subdivisions. The surveillance state grew quickly. The Codes and Ciphers Division, MI8, secretly reviewed communications passed over American cables. The Foreign Influence Division partnered with the American Protective League, an organization of private citizens, to identify anti-war advocates, radicals, and German sympathizers within the United States. In just over a year, the partnership yielded over 1 million pages of surveillance on German Americans and conducted over 3 million investigations for the government. These activities resulted in a nationwide surveillance network. When this network became public knowledge, there was widespread criticism. In 1929, Secretary of State Henry Stimson closed MI8, stating that gentlemen do not read each other's mail. However, the foundations of a large-scale, centralized national surveillance state were firmly entrenched. In 1952, a panel appointed by President Truman produced the Brownell Report. The report detailed the operations and failures of the Armed Forces Security Agency, which was founded in 1949 to achieve efficiency and economy in the government's intelligence services. As part of these reforms, the agency was rebranded as the National Security Agency. Over the next several decades, the NSA, along with the CIA and FBI, pursued covert operations and gathered intelligence on domestic political groups and American citizens. In 1974, Seymour Hersh published an article in the New York Times exposing the government's surveillance operations against U.S. citizens. In response, the Church Committee revealed the massive scale and scope of intelligence operations and the resulting abuses against liberties of people in the United States. A number of reforms were implemented, including the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, which attempted to place constraints on the U.S. government's surveillance activities. The weakness of these constraints became evident following the 9/11 attacks, when a series of whistleblowers revealed that the NSA and other government agencies once again significantly increased their collection of information on private individuals.
The present use of domestic surveillance in the U.S. is clear evidence of the boomerang effect. Surveillance was first developed in the Philippines and then returned back, like a boomerang, to the U.S. through training, recent technological innovations, and the mindset of monitoring and defeating potential threats. Today, there's unprecedented technological access to and amassing of data, threatening the liberties of American citizens.
Digital dementia. This is a real medical term right now. This is the idea that we're outsourcing our brains to our smart devices. We're so reliant on our smartphones that our smartphones are making us stupid. Does that make sense? It's convenient. I don't want to memorize 500 phone numbers, right? Nobody wants to do that. But we've lost the ability to memorize one. Like if I give you a 7-digit number now, how difficult? Would you find that kind of difficult to memorize, like a phone number that you used to do years ago? Yes or yes? Because if I take my arm and I put it into a sling for 6 months, does it stay the same? Would it even grow stronger? It would what? It would atrophy and grow weaker. Same thing with your mental muscles. If you're relying on your phone to keep your schedules, your to-dos, do simple. I went out to dinner with 10 people recently. There was 10 of us. and 3 people at the end pulled out their phones to divide the bill by 10. We've lost the ability to be able to do certain things, and so that's where digital dementia is. Smart devices could be extremely convenient, but they could be crippling also. So it could be a balance.
Can I borrow someone's phone, please? Anyone? Thank you. Okay, there is a subconscious reaction to these devices when we use them, okay? What if I were to hold my phone while I'm talking to you? I'm not checking it, it's not buzzing, it's not beeping. I'm nothing, I'm just holding it. Do you feel at this moment that you are the most important thing to me right now? No, you do not. Because there is a subconscious reaction we have to the device. When it is out, it makes the people around us feel that they are less important. So when we're walking down the halls in our offices and somebody says, hey boss, can I ask you a question? You go, sure, what's on your mind? We've just told them they're not that important. Or we can go, sure, what's on your mind? And if you don't have a pocket, find a shelf, put it on the shelf, come back and say, sure, what's on your mind? When we show up to a meeting, or a lunch, or a dinner, with our colleagues, our clients, or our friends, or our families, and we put the phone on the table, we have announced to everyone in the room that they are not that important to us. And by the way, putting the phone upside down is not more polite. My favorite one is when the meeting or at a lunch with someone that the phone will ring and the caller ID will pop up and they will go, I'm not gonna get it. Oh, so magnanimous. Oh, I'm lucky to eat with you today. Or they could just put the damn thing away. You can tell how addicted we are. When somebody pulls out their phone when you're with them, how uncomfortable does that make us feel? You're walking down the street with someone, they pull their phone out. We feel stupid, so what do? We pull our phones out. We're so addicted. Somebody goes to the bathroom when we're at dinner, and what do we have to sit there by ourselves? God forbid we should look around the room for 5 minutes. We pull our phones out. Meetings, awful. What do we do when a meeting happens, right? Everybody's sitting waiting for the meeting to start. Bob's running a few minutes late. Bob's here? Okay, start the meeting. Do you know when relationships are built? All that in between time. Thank you very much.
A lot of youth nowadays are addicted to something more dangerous and lethal than drugs. Concealed in innocent activities such as browsing, watching videos, liking pictures, and reading tweets. But what we've branded as normal is actually an addiction that is harming up to 38% of the general population. Although it's not officially recognized as a disorder, experts believe that internet addiction has affected a staggering number of teenagers. It is when the usage of the internet starts to interfere with their daily lives, and they neglect certain responsibilities just for a few more hours of surfing. Here are some signs and symptoms of internet addiction. Mood swings. Researchers noted that people with addictive behavior are more likely to be linked with sharp drops in mood and impulsive behavior. Procrastination. People who are addicted to the internet often neglect responsibilities and dedicate their time browsing the internet for hours and hours. Isolation. In the advent of social media, people seldom leave their own rooms to socialize. This leads to isolation and antisocial behaviors. Anxiety. In an analysis, it was found that social anxiety disorder was associated with high problematic internet use. Depression. Results in a research study stated that a significant correlation emerged between depression, self-esteem, and internet addiction. Watch out for these warning signs because you too may be affected by internet addiction. This is Joe Phil Baranda, and you're watching Generation K.
And we all want to be liked, but now we want to be liked by 16 million. And will now some of us do anything to be liked?
Thing is, people look like they have a much better life than they really do. People are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking.
Turn it off. That's what I would say. It's hard for young people now because they're hooked. They're addicted. If you don't think you're addicted, and I'm talking about anyone, from the highest to the lowest, if you don't think you're addicted, then see if you can turn it off for a week. It got quiet in here, didn't it? Didn't it get real quiet? It's a tool, so we should use it. God has blessed us with free will. Now it's free will magnified, free will on steroids. You're free to go in any direction you want. It will allow you, and it's not the enemy. It's just it's just a reflection of our own free will. You know? And we all want to be liked, but now we want to be liked by 16 million. And will now some of us do anything to be liked? We used to do anything to be liked, but it was by the person in front of you. Now it's to be liked by 16 million people that you don't know. We have to ask ourselves, what is the long-term, if not the short-term effect of too much information?
Just get a bad rap, being entitled, unfocused. You say that's not true.
Every single generation is affected by whatever's going on in the world during their formative years. So if somebody grew up during the Great Depression or the Second World War, they may grow up to be miserly, for example, or frugal, wanting to squeeze every drip of toothpaste out of the tube. Well, of course, it's because they grew up during, rations. Of course they're going to be like that. Well, likewise, this generation that grew up during the turn of the millennium, they came of age at the millennium, grew up in a time of technology that we didn't have. And it's had an effect on how they view the world. Some of it positive, some of it more challenging. My biggest concern is the unfettered access to social media and cell phones, quite frankly, because there's a biology to these things that are as addictive as alcohol, nicotine, and gambling.
I noticed that. Yeah. Therefore, I don't have a cell phone. I have a flip phone.
Which is wonderful.
It's all I use it for is to talk. Yeah. I like the sound of the voice. Why has it overtaken us? In other words, I deliberately will not have it because I know I'd be addicted.
It's about balance. It's not that they're inherently bad, and it's not that texting or social media is inherently bad, but it's when it gets out of balance. If somebody carries their phone wherever they go, like they physically feel anxiety if they put it down. When they're with their friends and have to have it up the entire time looking at the phone while they're with their friends, when they wake up in the morning and check their phone before they say good morning to the person sleeping next to them, these are problems. This is out of balance.
What do they do for it, though? There's centers where you go for drug addiction and alcohol addiction. Is there a center now for...
There's starting to be, but it's not yet officially recognized as an addiction in this country. And so we don't treat it as an addiction. We don't even recognize it as an addiction. So we accuse more, all generations, but it's exaggerated in the millennial generation for being entitled or whatever other...
Will we have to deal then with withdrawal?
Yes. I mean, that's just like any addiction. You're going to go through withdrawal before you find health again.
We're in right now.
The thing is, you're dealing with an addicted generation.
This is a big time bomb ticking.
This is no accident. Indeed, it is by design.
I mean, seriously?
It was my mistake.
I mean, I think we can all feel it.
To try to make these products as addictive as possible.
Spike in dopamine.
We now know that many of the major social media companies hire individuals called attention engineers who borrow principles from Las Vegas casino gambling, among other places, to try to make these products as addictive as possible. That is the desired use case of these products, is that you use it in an addictive fashion because that maximizes the profit that can be extracted from your attention and data.
It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are.
The way the technologist Jaron Lanier puts it is that these companies offer you shiny treats in exchange for minutes of your attention and bytes of your personal data, which can then be packaged up and sold.
What happened is that the attention economy and this race for attention got more and more competitive. And the more competitive it got to get people's attention on, say, a news website, the more they need to add these design principles, these more manipulative design tactics, as ways of holding on to your attention.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
Social media tools are designed to be addictive. The actual desired use case of these tools is that you fragment your attention as much as possible throughout your waking hours. That's how these tools are designed to use. Well, we have a growing amount of research which tells us that if you spend large portions of your day in a state of fragmented attention, so large portions of your day where you're constantly breaking up your attention, take a quick glance, do a just check, and just quickly look at Instagram, that this can permanently reduce your capacity for concentration. I am especially worried about this when we look at the younger generation coming up, which is the most saturated in this technology.
And it's very addictive because if you pull on the slot machine arm enough, you will win. And you never know which pull will reward you.
That's an addictive behavior, and it's dopamine that is driving that addiction. So what happens with social media is Robert Sapolsky, who did the foundational research on this at Stanford, calls it the magic of maybe. When you look at your phone and maybe there's a text there and maybe there's not, and you don't know, when it shows up, that high you get, that's dopamine. It's the magic of maybe. Maybe it'll be there, maybe it won't. When it shows up, you get a 400% spike in dopamine. That is roughly the same amount of dopamine as you're getting from cocaine. It's slightly less than an extremely addictive drug like cocaine. And that's what's happening.
We really care what other people think of us. So for example, when you upload a new profile photo of yourself on Facebook, that's a moment where our mind is very vulnerable to knowing what other people think of my new profile photo. And so when we get new likes on our profile photo, Facebook, knowing this, could actually message me and say, oh, you have new likes on your profile photo. And it knows that we'll be vulnerable to that moment because we all really care about when we're tagged in a photo or when we have a new profile photo. And the thing is that they control the dial, the technology companies control the dial for when and how long your profile photo shows up on other people's news feeds. So they can orchestrate it so that other people more often end up liking your profile photo over a delayed period of time, for example, so that you end up having to more frequently come back and see what the new likes are.
And it's literally rewiring our brain. Even social media, the challenge is, with these terms like Facebook depression and everything, because
what's that?
This is social media depression because whereas everyone's looking at their feed and they're comparing their lives to other people, their highlights of other people's lives.
Wow.
And there's actually less life satisfaction, more sadness, depression, and stuff like that.
And it's interesting because if you think about things that, routinely produce a lot of dopamine, alcohol, for example, there's a drinking age, right? We have a drinking age. The alcohol releases a whole lot of dopamine. It makes you feel really, really good. We say, okay, you can have that, but you've got to wait. You've got to be 21 years old. We don't do that with social media. We're, essentially putting highly addictive drugs into the hands of kids before they have any natural defenses against them. And what you're seeing with internet addiction, with social media addiction, the same thing over and over. It's people trying to change their state of consciousness with a device, trying to get at the underlying neurochemical chemistry, and it's very, very addictive.
And so I would say the problem with the gadgets, and they're amazing things, is that they proximately interfere with medium to long-term goals, I would say. And so I think the first thing you have to do to bring them under control is figure out what it is that their use is interfering with. It has to be something important. So you think, well, I want to do something important. Well, what is that? Oh, it could be personal. Maybe you want to have a relationship. You want to get married. You want to have kids. You want to have a career that's meaningful. You want to have a life. You want to have an Abrahamic adventure and be the father of nations, let's say. Well, you can't be ratting away on your cell phone and doing that. And so I think part of it is to set your sights high and make a plan and figure out who you could be and see if obsessive utilization of smartphone fits into that vision of nobility. And it will partly because they're unbelievably powerful communication devices, but so often it's for lack of something better to do, and it also interferes.
You know, imagine like when you take that to the extreme, where, you know, bad actors can now manipulate large swaths of people to do anything you want. It's a really, really bad state of affairs. And we compound the problem, right? We curate our lives around this perceived sense of perfection because we get rewarded in these short-term signals, hearts, likes, thumbs up, and we conflate that with value and we conflate it with truth. And instead what it really is fake, brittle popularity that's short-term and that leaves you even more, and admit it, vacant and empty before you did it. Because then it forces you into this vicious cycle where you're like, what's the next thing I need to do now? Because I need it back. Think about that compounded by 2 billion people. And then think about how people react then to the perceptions of others. It's really bad.
So we know from the research literature that the more you use social media, the more likely you are to feel lonely or isolated. We know that the constant exposure to your friends' carefully curated positive portrayals of their life can leave you to feel inadequate and can increase rates of depression. And something I think we're going to be hearing more about in the near future is that there's a fundamental mismatch between the way our brains are wired and this behavior of exposing yourself to stimuli with intermittent rewards throughout all of your waking hours. So it's one thing to spend a couple hours at the slot machine in Las Vegas, but if you bring a slot machine with you and you pull that handle all day long from when you wake up to when you go to bed, we're not wired from it. It short circuits the brain, and we're starting to find that it has actual cognitive consequences, one of them being this sort of pervasive background hum of anxiety.
Here's the thing. The world we live in isn't real. Social media isn't real. And by design, social media rewards us for showing our best life. The edited, posed, champagne, Michelin star, holiday, orchestrated best angle of our life, the highlight reel. But you don't ever see real life, the 99% of our lives, the behind the scenes, the unglamorous, unfiltered, day-to-day, bland normality. And you end up comparing your behind the scenes to other people's fake highlight reel and using others as a mirror or benchmark for how you should look, how successful you should be, or how you should live. These fake comparisons will only serve to make you feel inadequate and inferior to something that isn't even real. Research continually shows that comparing your life to someone else's creates envy, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, and depression. You compare yourself to other people every single day, consciously or subconsciously, and no matter what I say, you're not going to stop because comparing one thing to another is a natural human thing to do. Whether we want to admit it or not, a big reason why anything has value is because there's something worse or better to compare it to. Think about it. An old brick of a mobile phone with a big aerial is only considered amazing in a world before the smartphone. The horse and carriage is only considered a phenomenal mode of transport until the car comes along. The answer isn't to stop making comparisons, because unfortunately we can't control that. But you have to change the object of your comparison from someone else to yourself. You have to measure yourself against yourself. And by doing this, you start at a base point where you consider yourself to be perfectly fine exactly how you are. But it also is the most effective, motivating, and healthy way to work to improve yourself. You'll become your happiest self when you stop putting pressure on yourself to be more like someone else, and when you start comparing real to real.
We're in a really bad state of affairs right now, in my opinion. It is eroding the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other. And I don't have a good solution. You know, my solution is I just don't use these tools anymore. I haven't for years. It's created huge tension with my friends, huge tensions in my social circles. If you look at, like, you know, my Facebook feed, I've posted maybe 2 times in 7 years. 3 times, 5 times. It's less than 10. And it's weird, I guess I kind of just innately didn't want to get programmed. And so I just tuned it out. But I didn't confront it. And now to see what's happening, it really bums me out.
Back in the 1970s and the early 80s at Xerox PARC, when Steve Jobs first went over and saw the graphical user interface, the way people talked about computers and what computers were supposed to be was a bicycle for our minds. That here we are, you take a human being, and they have a certain set of capacities and capabilities. And then you give them a bicycle, and they can go to all these new distances. They're empowered to go to these brand new places and to do these new things, to have these new capacities. And that's always been the philosophy of people who make technology, is how do we create bicycles for our minds to do and empower us to feel and access more. Now, when the first iPhone was introduced, it was also the philosophy of these technologies. How do we empower people to do something more? And in those days, it wasn't manipulative because there was no competition for attention. Photoshop wasn't trying to maximize how much attention it took from you. It didn't measure its success that way. And the internet overall had been in the very beginning not designed to maximize attention. It was just putting things out there, creating these message boards. It wasn't designed with this whole persuasive psychology that emerged later.
If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
This episode of Black Mirror scared us all to death by taking social media too far.
I see there's one standby seat on another plane leaving tonight. That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You gotta be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2. People are scored out of 5 by everyone they interact with, and their public rating determines where they can live, who they can date, and how they travel.
No! But you invited me. You've seen the guest list. They are all like 4.5 or above. They are going to freak at a 2.6.
But this is just fantasy, right? Not in China. The government is building a social credit system to rate the trustworthiness of 1.4 billion people. There are plans to roll out the system by 2020, but it's already happening in Suzhou City. So, how does it work? Every citizen starts with 100 points linked to their ID card or social media. If you do something good, like volunteer to charity, recycle trash, donate blood, or send positive energy messages on social media about the country, your score goes up. If you do something bad, like jaywalk, cancel a reservation, leave a dishonest review, or you are even friends with someone with a low rating on social media, your score drops.
In order to restore calm, I'm invoking my authority as airport security to dock you 1 full ranking point as a punitive measure. This is a temporary measure.
High-scoring citizens may get free gym memberships, cheaper public transport, and shorter wait times in hospitals. Low-scoring citizens may have travel restrictions, slower internet speeds, and restricted access to restaurants. Is this Black Mirror nightmare becoming a reality in China?
Imagine a society where everything you do, everything you say, and everything you buy is controlled and evaluated by the authorities. It's not science fiction. In China, it's a reality. From now on, citizens' lives are rated and assessed. This is what the Chinese Communist Party calls social credit.
The government here says it is trying to purify society by rewarding those who are trustworthy and punishing those who are not. So like the credit score that most Americans get for how they handle their finances, Chinese citizens are now getting social credit scores.
The social credit rating system began testing 5 years ago in approximately 30 Chinese cities. It will be rolled out across the entire country by 2020.
So now, the government is tracking citizens' behavior from smoking on a train to jaywalking. If one score drops low enough, they could be denied travel or buying an apartment.
When Leo Hu recently tried to book a flight, he was told he was banned from flying because he's on the list of untrustworthy people. Leo is a journalist who was ordered by a court to apologize for a series of tweets he wrote and was then told his apology was insincere. I can't buy property. My child can't go to private school, he says. You feel you're being controlled by the list all the time. And the list is now getting longer, as every Chinese citizen is being assigned a social credit score. Nearly 15 million people have already been prevented from traveling.
The process made possible thanks to the collection of masses of data in all areas of its citizens' private and public life, and it is set to be implemented nationally in 2020.
China's growing network of surveillance cameras makes all of this possible. The country already has an estimated 176 million cameras.
This knows every person, every bike, every car, every bus.
You can tell whether it is an adult, a child, a male or female. It can recognize more than 4,000 vehicles.
For China's population, already scrutinized by the country's 117 million surveillance cameras, the social credit system only signals a further decline in freedom.
How far into people's daily mundane activities does this go?
Well, I think that the government and the people running the plan would like it to go as deeply as possible to determine how to allocate benefits and also how to impact and shape their behavior.
In this building, the officials of Rongcheng assign a rating to its inhabitants. We were able to sneak inside and film discreetly for a few minutes. Here, the agents collect data provided by the police, courts, and tax office. Each resident is then given a rating from the letter D for not-so-good citizens to AAA for the best. This also applies to companies.
In several big cities in China, including here in Shanghai, the government is even tracking jaywalkers. Cameras record them going through intersections, zero in on their face, and then publicly shame them on nearby video screens. Police in Beijing have been wearing these glasses that can recognize faces linked to the government's national database to help boost arrests. How advanced is this technology?
This is cutting edge.
Wu Fei is CEO of a company that makes the glasses. He claims he doesn't know how the government intends to use his technology.
I have no idea.
Really?
Yes.
Do you trust the government the way they're using your technology?
Sorry, I can't answer this.
You can't answer that.
This is outside our scope of questions.
China plans to launch a digital mass surveillance systems are stirring concerns of privacy and government accountability across the globe.
He says how the new scoring system truly works is kept secret and could be easily abused by the government.
Many countries across the globe are experiencing a massive expansion in government surveillance powers, and the threats of global instability, terror and war are leaving increasingly less space for privacy and individual freedom in the post-industrial society.
Reward good citizens and punish bad people. Human rights activist Hu Jia is already blacklisted. Deprived of his passport for 10 years, his movements are limited. He says the social credit system will allow authorities to more easily punish those who do not pledge allegiance to the party.
In China, the people who will lose the most credit are those who do not agree with the Communist Party. We can't criticize society or the current system, nor should we say bad things about the highest levels of power and the leader. In fact, this social harmony desired by the party is said to maintain the stability of society, but it only serves to guarantee the monopoly of its power.
We're already moving very quickly, as you know, into a sort of surveillance society where lots of organizations of all types have lots of data about us. If we unify it all around one identity system, that hurdles us far faster and far further into a surveillance society.
So let's switch gears a little bit. So you have something else that's really interesting in the newsletter about people in Sweden putting implants, microchips, right, into them. We've seen something like this here. There was a company that
in Wisconsin,
right, so they could get stuff out of the vending machine with these microchips. So what's happening in Sweden?
So basically in Sweden over the past couple of years, several thousand people have had these little rice grain-sized microchips put into their hands, which contain information that they can use to, say, check into the gym or get into the office or pay for train tickets. Right? On the one hand, everyone can appreciate that that's convenient, right? How many times have you been looking for your key fob at the gym or can't remember your password for something? But I think the bigger question here is, look, as the human body itself becomes a technological platform, right, there are big questions we need to consider about what kind of information is put out about us, from us, quite literally, and also further down the line, what kind of access do other people or platforms have to that information that is inside us, right? This is a biotech question, this kind of blurring of the lines between the human body and tech. I mean, it's one thing if you're holding your smartphone and it's sort of emitting data about you. It's another thing if your own hand is doing the same thing. You know, we'll see. This is 3,000 people. This is a small experiment. It's been developing over the past several years. But as the information that these microchips contains gets more elaborate and more detailed, people may start to change their mind.
This is not an animation. This isn't like the Fox football robot.
It looks like Star Wars to me, though.
Yeah, it's a little Terminator-esque, right? But this is the Atlas robot, and this thing can now go out for a jog.
Look at that backflip.
I mean, you've got to be in pretty good shape if you want to outrun that thing or outflip it. Pretty good. So Boston Dynamics, robots can now jog, do flips, and open doors.
You know what's amazing?
Is it over for us? Are we done as a human race?
I'm pro-science. I am pro-technology. I can't think of the scenario where you need a robot to run.
Or do a backflip.
Let's just assume that it can. I don't think that's the function of the
It's
robot.
amazing what this robot could do a year ago. It's not even close to what it can do. So only imagine what it's going to be able to do a year from now.
This is how it starts. Like they learn.
We want robots. They'll take care of our kids someday.
Now, if that is a possibility for us,
the robot nanny.
The robot nanny. I'm all in.
New at 6, another futuristic innovation may be taking shape in a secret Silicon Valley site. An Amazon research facility in Sunnyvale reportedly has a secret mission involving robots.
To give you an idea of just how sensitive Amazon is about their lab, as we were shooting video on the public sidewalk, Teams of security guards said we couldn't point our cameras at their property and called Sunnyvale police claiming we were trespassing.
Just so you know, he's filming audio and video too.
Awesome.
After consulting city zoning maps, Sunnyvale PD said it was indeed public property and allowed us to stay.
Cool, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bloomberg put out a report early this morning titled, "Amazon has a top secret plan to build home robots." Citing unnamed sources, they say the project has been dubbed Vesta, after the Roman goddess of hearth, home, and family. There are a lot of unknowns. Will it talk? What will it look like? And what will it be able to do?
Chloe, am I ready on my washer and cycle?
Remember Chloe from LG, the doomed home robot demo at the Consumer Electronics Show earlier this year? It went silent in front of a huge crowd.
Chloe, what's for dinner tonight?
It's a glaring example of how the technology is still in its early days.
We're becoming aware of how much data we give away without even realizing it. Our habits online can say a lot about our personalities, but when we're out and about, what does our behaviour in the real world say about us? Well, in the UK, we're all getting used to the fact that we're being filmed by CCTV a lot of the time, but although a human can tell a lot about a person just by looking at video footage, that is a really hard job for a computer to do. That said, this system is having a pretty good guess at who it's looking at right now. This kind of profiling of humans by computer systems has many uses, from this kind of anonymized retail analysis to other areas that might say more about us as people. One of the more controversial uses for AI is in policing.
Peterlee Police Station in County Durham, the early hours of the morning. The man pictured here in the station's CCTV, let's call him Steve, has been arrested for possession of heroin.
Arrest is on suspicion of possession of a controlled substance.
Here in Durham, the police are trialling AI software which could help make decisions about suspects being held in custody.
Leave your shoes there and we'll just do a quick search.
After Steve's been processed, the custody sergeant will enter his details into a system called the Harm Assessment Risk Tool, or HART for short. It's an artificial intelligence tool designed to help custody sergeants make decisions about what to do with a suspect.
And this allows us to target the people in terms of our interventions that we've developed to make sure that they don't commit crime in the future.
Everybody that I've spoken to who works with the HART project is very keen to stress that the information that it provides is advisory only and that a human custody sergeant makes all final decisions. But the use of this technology in general is for some people a cause for concern.
This kind of artificial intelligence system in policing relies on big data, and that means that people's privacy is at risk, and it risks us moving more towards a surveillance state. But it also risks discrimination because patterns that exist in data already risk being perpetuated and repeated, and there's very little accountability over it.
And it's this data that privacy campaigners find troubling.
Experience data profiles individuals based on their postcode, their household, and even down to an individual level. And some of these kind of profile stereotypes include terms like disconnected youth, Asian heritage, dependent greys, and people are sorted into these categories. Now, that's bad enough. When that kind of profiling is being used to make decisions about freedom and justice in the UK, I think we really need to just put the brakes on and say, why are we doing this?
It's been revealed that the US National Security Agency collected over 500 million phone records of US citizens last year. That's over triple the number of 2016. And that is despite a new law limiting the spy agency's powers. The US Freedom Act bans the bulk collection of phone records and internet metadata, whilst also limiting government data collection to what is, quote, reasonably practicable. It does, however, permit the gathering of phone and text logs when a link to terrorism is proven. The recent increase in records collected comes in stark contrast to the concerns expressed last year by President Donald Trump.
I think that is a very big surveillance of our citizens. I think that's a very big topic, and it's a topic that should be number one, and we should find out what the hell is going on.
We're witnessing the destruction of human-to-human relationships so that they can be replaced with artificial relationships, a sinister plan embraced by post-humanists who are the arch-enemy of humanity, hell-bent on our destruction. At this very moment, post-humanists are replacing the love and affection associated with the human touch with the cold, fossil-fuel plastic touch of death and destruction. And now, militant atheists are taking another bold step forward towards replacing humanity with machines via synthetic biology, via synthetic birth incubators, i.e. the synthetic vagina. Ha ha ha! Welcome to the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the clone armies of tomorrow, to transgenic children. Yes, the artificial vagina is here. It can incubate new babies from start to finish in less than a year, with all the plugs and wires you've come to love. This is the end, my friends. The transgenic era of humanity is upon us, complete with designer babies composed of a synthetic genome, printed off a 3D gene gun, and incubated in a synthetic vagina. They plan to produce synthetic people, smarter, taller, more intelligent, and more resistant to disease than we are. Pre-programmed and enabled to merge with the machines, to merge with the hive mind of the Borg, strung together in a matrix under one collective consciousness, separated from the truth, separated at birth from the souls that seed humanity. It is perhaps the beginning of the beast system, the beast arising from the abyss with the mark of the beast being on everything you buy, with ceaseless propaganda promoting the beast system, the beast chip implant, the one-eyed symbolism of the one-eyed man. Evil is terraforming the planet as we speak. They are terraforming what is good and natural into what is evil and synthetic. They are slow killing the population, slow killing the planet to make way for the rise of the machines, to give rise to the post-human society, the era of technology left in the wake of human extinction. Learn that term, ladies and gentlemen, post-humanism. After humans, the evil forces of this world are planning mass genocide. They are planning the mass extermination of the human race. They've sculpted it on the Georgia Guidestones, and they've signed their names to it with the chemtrails in the skies. And yet somehow the sheeple are celebrating their destruction. Moo, cow, death towers surround you. Moo, cow, your food is illegal in most other countries. Moo, cow, the skies are synthetic. They're mandating toxic vaccines, and the water supply is laced with heavy metals. They are preparing you for the slaughterhouse. They are preparing you for the kill, and you are just grazing in the pasture. Double moo, cows. The new world order that we're up against is the beast system. The mark of the beast is on everything you buy, brought to you by the new world order. So get your implant, get your mark of the beast today. And if that sounds anti-Christian, it's because it is anti-Christian. You are being suckered into hating people of faith, suckered into hating every religion, because the beast system controls you and it controls your flow of information. It is because evil has enslaved you. Evil controls your mind because evil controls your demand for information. Every false flag, every hit TV show, every Super Bowl halftime show makes you demand their programming. It makes you demand their information, and so it makes you demand their mind control. Everything you consume that goes through an industry is the product of the cult of death. whether it be the mass media industry, the fast food industry, the technology industry. It all promotes evil. It promotes abortions, endless wars, trashing the planet, disinformation campaigns, psychological operations. They rape and violate your rights so that they can rape and violate our nation. They modify the food supply. They modify the water supply. They do everything they can to trash the planet, to make the world a worse off place. From the Flint water crisis to Cold War 2.0, from foreign policy to Agenda 21, evil has sold you out to promote their agenda, to bring in their new world order, to complete the destruction of humanity, to give rise to the post-human society. The evil you face is of the dark side. They control the programming on TV, the agenda of the politicians. They make the policy because they are of evil, for evil, and by evil. And since they serve evil masters, it is only evil that can come from them. No matter how they sell it, no matter how they spin it, no matter what they say, they are the boogeymen of the dark side. Light came into this world, but men preferred darkness, for their deeds were evil. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
How did we get here? Technology is advancing at a phenomenal rate. Artificial eyes to cybernetic limbs.
The promise of a better future. We now have the choice to free ourselves from any kind of limitation.
Strength, power, speed. Now I focus on what really matters.
Have these augmentations really been tested? There are people who say that what is happening is unnatural, that we're playing God. But people were scared of electricity, and where would the world be without
What
that?
happens if this technology falls into the wrong hands?
Diseases or viruses that could wipe out the human race.
Scenes of terror are being witnessed worldwide.
What kind of madness has gripped the mechanically augmented people? 9 million deaths confirmed and counting.
This is an attack on humanity and the universal values that we share.
These people were hacked. They had no control.
What is the appropriate response? And can we actually protect ourselves from this happening again?
I have no idea what happened. I would never.
You tried to kill me.
At what point will governments consider the idea of segregation for all our sakes?
We can be politically correct, or we can be foolish, but it's going to get worse and worse.
The Czech Republic adds its voice to a growing list of countries calling for the relocation of its augmented citizens.
Reports of severe shortages of the drug neurophazine required to inhibit the rejection of augmentations.
In a sign of growing anti-augmentation sentiment, thousands march.
It doesn't matter how many idiots you get out there on the street. We will not relinquish our limbs. Do you understand?
What's happening on this planet is a mass fear-mongering, and the mainstream media pushing this narrative.
The officer suffered severe facial
incident after incident after
You need to be afraid, because they are coming for you.
We will not be made slaves to corporations. We will rise up.
To them, we are the enemy.
Have you seen what your kind are doing?
My kind? You sound just like them.
We've come to a tipping point.
We can't live like this anymore.
This violence is completely out of control.
The world is being paid for this corporate militants.
What do they have planned for us?
Why are they building concentration camps?
What's going on out there? Reports of multiple fatalities. Only one way to deal with these bloodthirsty fanatics.
A lot of people died. Now you want to take away our freedom? You will pay for it in blood.
Multiple detonations looks like car bombs. The Augmented Rights Coalition denies responsibility.
The Segregation Act has been passed into law, effective immediately.
Augmented persons are being asked to move to safe and secure segregated districts.
I don't want them to take me.
We are still your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, who love us. We lost everything. Our dreams, our innocence. Where are you taking her? Where are you taking her? Our humanity.
My job to you is the wake-up call to make you aware of the problem. Your job is to figure out how we're going to stop this before it kills us.
Transhumanism.